Welcome to the Rugged Revival podcast. I'm Rugged Ronnie. It's nice to be back with you again after my bout of sickness again. But we're back bringing you the very best conversations with incredible artists and now bands. So on this episode, on the very first Christmas episode, you're joining us. We have the very talented band Still Saddle. Still Saddle are a 6-piece band from Montreal, Canada. They create a mixture of country, rock and southern soul music and are influenced by many other styles too. The boys are not only just the first band to appear on the show, but also the first musicians to hail from Canada. So it's doubly special episode, and it's so nice to have you, Ben, Mac.
Thanks for having us.
No, thanks very much for joining us, TJ. I don't know if you wanted to say a few words before we carry on, but
I think people are bored of hearing my voice over the last few episodes, so it's nice to take a back seat. And no, it's great. We've obviously been speaking on Instagram, and you guys reached out to say hello, and we've been kind of keeping a keen eye on what you guys are doing. So yeah, again, thanks for coming on the show, and yeah, we're really keen to get to know what you've been up to.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
So guys, just over to you. So just a bit of introduction from yourselves and what you do in a band.
My name's Mac, and I play the bass.
Yeah, I'm Ben, and I play the steel guitar.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So tell us a bit about yourselves. How did you all you guys meet? How did you first get together?
So I can lead this one off, Ben. I guess we'll go chronologically. Back to that magical period of COVID. Wind back to the before times. Friend of mine, Austin Boylan, was crashing on my couch in between tours with his previous band, and we started hanging out, writing, jamming, loving Jerry Lee Lewis, the Everly Brothers, the Byrds, Waylon and Willie, etc. And it kind of just snowballed into a period of, this is what we're doing right now. And a buddy came to town with the tape machine, and we hunkered down in a parking garage converted to rehearsal space, and just, recorded every song and wrote stuff for a week, and it was a blast. And slowly but surely we started looking for full-time band members, meeting talking to buddies, meeting new people. And one day Austin called me really excited. He's like, I met this guy named Ben. He's a pedal steel wizard, incredible. He's a country music encyclopedia. He's perfect for the band, we got to get this guy in. I just jammed with him. He's unbelievable. And Ben, I'll turn it over to you. I think that was 2022, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I had gotten a message from Austin in like 2019 that was like, hey, do you play the pedal steel? And I was like, yes, I do. And then he did not answer me. And then 3 years later, he was like, hey, do you play the pedal steel? And I was like, yo, yes, I do. And then this band started. I joined this band anyway at that point. We jammed for the first time at our drummer's place. And I ended up it's crazy to think that far back. Like we were all, it feels like it was yesterday, but also feels like it was forever ago. Lots has happened since then. Yeah,
That's fabulous.
We assembled the group almost Ella Blues Brothers style, quest through the city, stole a drummer from a buddy's band, convinced another buddy to switch from guitar to keys, and one thing led to another, and there's now six full-time members. And I got to give a shout out to the traveling horns, who we got a group of guys who we always call when we can make it work to bring a 3-piece horn section along. Mark, Evan, and Scott, special players and great people.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So I think.
And Cassidy Johnson. I gotta gotta
Can't miss
mention
anybody
as
off.
well. Yeah, no, man, I don't want to leave anybody out because shit, our album release show. Oh, sorry, I don't know if we could
No,
swear,
you're
but
right. Don't worry.
Say what you
um,
want, we do, mate.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we we had 10 people on stage for the first time in
Wow.
this past August. Austin, the lead singer's partner, fiance, soon to be wife, uh, sings with us as well and contributed additional vocals to half the songs on the record. So it was an absolute treat to finally be the full 10 on stage as appeared on the record, you know.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
incredible. It's
yeah.
absolutely incredible, and so unique as well. As I was saying before, it's such a unique sort of thing to listen to as well, and to see. I've watched some of the YouTube videos that have been posted. I know you were playing in. I think I watched one from 2022 the other day. It's awesome. It really gets like proper foot tapping and singing along. So that's great. What about your backgrounds? What's your background, Ben? Are you from a musical family? When did you start playing? When did you start it all?
Yeah, I'm not super from a musical family. I mean, so there's no musicians in my family. Um, my mom, when I was a kid, like I mean, my dad and I would listen to CDs in the car all the time, but never really country music. And my first like musical obsession came out of spite because my mom was going to see Def Leppard and I couldn't go, and I was in the third grade, and I was like, well, I'm gonna become obsessed with this thing, and I did. For the next 3 years, I grew my hair out, and I was truly obsessed with Def Leppard until I got to high school. And then in high school, I discovered, Willie Nelson and folk music and country music and bluegrass music. I think like most of my guitar playing stems from the bluegrass world. And then I bought a pedal steel when I was 15, 16, and
Wow.
I became super, super immersed in country and honky tonk music. And there's this pretty legendary Canadian country band called Blue Rodeo, and it's one of the CDs I would listen to in my dad's car growing up. And there's a steel guitar in that band, and there's this guy offering steel guitar lessons in Montreal, where I was from, like in the West Island of Montreal. When I was looking for a steel, and I reached out to him, and it never worked out. Anyway, that guy ended up being the guy from that Blue Rodeo record, and then we ended up linking up when I was like 16, and since then he's become a great friend, and we play music pretty regularly together. But he's like, there's not many steel guitar players in Montreal, so he was a big push there just to watch someone else do it, and that's about it. I've been just kind of snowballing downhill into country music obsession ever since.
That's epic. I can't believe, I'm really disappointed, Ben, actually, that you haven't started off with country and love country ever since. Just, I can't imagine listening to anything else, but I'm only joking. So, I mean,
Well, Def
it's
Leppard's
a,
pretty good, man.
yeah. Um, I, I'm a little bit like yourself, to be honest. I was obsessed with the pedal steel, sound and how people do it. I wouldn't even begin to even think I could sit down and attempt to play it because I'd just mess it up and go horribly wrong. But it's an amazing sound, and it's such an incredible instrument to watch play as well. Yeah, no, really interesting. Thank you. And Mac, what about yourself?
So a, a really musical family. I think I gotta thank my parents a lot for opportunities at a young age. My dad wasn't a player, but had a killer record collection, great taste in jazz and blues and rock. A little vanilla in the 80s. He went through a phase. He was born in 64, so it comes with the territory. And maybe, my mom was a classically trained pianist. We got the Royal Conservatory School here in
Wow.
Canada, and her aunt, my great aunt, Sister Marie, was a nun who taught for the conservatory. She taught Avril Lavigne how to play the piano
Wow.
in
I didn't know that.
Napanee, Ontario. Yeah, so I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, out west. My dad took a job in Houston in '99, and there were no piano teachers in the area, and so I got put on the cello. I wanted to play bass, and they're like, "You're 8 years old, kid. They don't make them that size." So I did the cello growing up, and by high school I wanted to learn guitar and bass, and ended up going to classical music school on the bass here in Canada, and took a gig out of at a school with a touring band with my buddy Paul Jacobs here in Montreal, and that's how I met Austin Boylan. So that's sort of the long-winded short answer of
Wow.
from then till now. Yeah.
What a rich history of music. It's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, that's unreal. And thank you for sharing that. You know, it's really, really good. So who would you say, it's a question for both of you really, who would you say is your biggest influences, or influencers in country in music, whole music?
Go ahead, Ben.
Man, I gotta say, like really, like records I like listen to the most that influence my playing and singing the most. Um, Probably it's either like Willie Nelson, especially the Phases and Stages record, and anything from that era, or it's the singer Daryl Singletary, who I was completely obsessed with right out of high school. Rest in peace. But he's yeah, I'd say those two are biggest influences on me.
Brilliant.
Myself, as a bassist, um, at the time when the band Steel Saddle started, I was really studying a lot of Stax Records and the work of Donald Duck Dunn. And can like link it back to my childhood and not realizing it at the time, but like having silly dance parties with my brothers and dad to the Blues Brothers record and some of their hilarious live recordings. And, you know, little did I know at the time how much like Steve Cropper on guitar and Duck Dunn would influence my own musical approach with like a less is more, space is the place, and like a very powerful melodic bass player, but keeping things tight and funky. And um, you know, it's evolved as a like a songwriter and writing melodies to sing and songs. I think in the past while, Gene Clark has been somebody that has always really resonated with me throughout his career, from the Byrds to his solo work. And my mom loved Toby Keith and Shania Twain. My God, I think I
Yeah.
know the words still to every song on the Big Dog Daddy CD. That thing was like lived in our car, man. And Ben and I bonded over just like, you know, Shania Twain, and we joke to bring it back to Def Leppard. You know, you got the Mutt Lane connection there, and the power of a
Yeah, it's a
whisper
strong
track.
connection. People don't think about that a lot, but the Shania
Yeah.
Twain, The Woman in Me sounds a lot like Hysteria.
Yeah, yeah. If you listen with the right ear, you know, there's connections to be made.
Big
But yeah,
time.
man, I got to see Willie and Toby Keith play at the Houston Rodeo as a kid.
Oh
So I
wow.
mean, that's like a memory that's ingrained in my brain. And I remember like when he sang "I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again." I was like 12 or something, and my mom was there, like, you know, trying to like brush it off, like she didn't know what that song was about. I didn't even really know what it was about. A bit of a, you know, a sheltered background. But yeah, I mean, to name a few people, I think that's a good place to start, and influences that crept in to the record for me.
That's good. It's the reason we love doing this podcast is because, you know, you bring up lots of different names, and some of them I'm not familiar with. You know, I'm, you know, not new into country, but, you know, probably 10, 15 years. And, you know, going back some, you know, further than that, it's interesting to hear different names, particularly from Canada and places like that, and all of the people that we speak to. So it takes me down a bit of a rabbit hole some weekends when I'm away from the kids, away from the wife, and I could just put the Spotify on, have a couple of beers, and, you know, go down that road. So I appreciate you guys sharing that. It's really interesting. The next thing is, you know, I was really excited to have you guys on. There's been a lot of hype around you online. And that's I first kind of heard about you guys several months ago from mainly Twitter, funny enough. And there was a lot of guys talking about your album and actually saying, you know, this is the album of the year. And I thought, wow, that's a huge statement. But there were some real credible people saying that. And after listening to it, absolutely agree. I think it's an amazing record. I've given it a spin ever since, and I annoyed my 10-year-old son earlier, taking him to football practice and just kicking the hell out of it, and he's like, "What's this music?" But I was like, "Listen to it," and he loved it as well. So that's
right on.
that's your best critic, man. But so when did you guys originally start releasing your music under Steel Saddle? Was that last year?
The record came out this summer. We had recorded a single in the keyboard player's apartment when Steel Saddle was a 4-piece, and we released that in 2022. And we just wanted to wait and kind of iron out our songs, had our pocketbooks a bit, and go to a place where we could record on tape live off the floor. And when the timing was eventually right, we did it. We went for it, and it was an absolute blast. So it's the record was probably like 2 years of writing and rehearsing, and we had a big list of songs, and then we were like, what can we track in 5 days? And narrowed it down, and that was that. But yeah, Ben, you have anything to add?
No, no. In terms of when we released it, yeah, it would have been that first single. We released it because we were playing our first show. We didn't want anything. We didn't want to
That's
go out
right.
there and play a show with nothing for people to like go back and listen to.
I think the
But
promoter was
it did,
nagging
like,
us. Yeah.
yeah. But we did like me and Charlie, our guitar player slash my roommate, weren't even on that song. Is it Coleman drumming on that, or is it Evan
Yeah.
drumming on that?
Yeah. So Coleman, the current drummer, myself, Nick Power on the keys. He had a Hammond B3 organ at the time in his apartment. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the Leslie speaker to boot. You couldn't even get around his room. He had a 15-year-old
Not, by
pit
the way,
bull pooping and falling asleep and peeing on the floor. He'd like lay under the drum set up in the kitchen. His apartment was called
worth
the
mentioning.
Funderdome, and we cut that track right in the Funderdome's kitchen live. And that was our first foray into recording since the original, the secret Steel Saddle record. There is one in existence, but it's just like a total collaboration of loads of different people over COVID. And maybe that will see the light of day someday.
Awesome.
It's worth mentioning that Nick had a B3 organ in an apartment that was not a ground floor apartment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it kind of shook the place as he in the literal Thunderdome there. It's I mean, listening to the record this week again, and I'm lucky enough to have kind of big speakers behind me, and it's fairly soundproof in here, so I was blasting the hell out of it. And I think if you anyone listening to him playing on for the first time would not know what era that music or that album was released. They wouldn't say 2024. It's got this real kind of 70s, this kind of authentic, how do you describe it, kind of retro vibe to it, and this real soulful kind of sound. It's amazing. It's something I haven't heard for a long time, and particularly new bands coming out having a 6-piece kind of band with a horn section. It's quite unique. And is that quite unique to Montreal? I'm interested in the different scenes when we have people on. We've had people on from Texas and Kentucky, and we haven't had anyone from Canada, like we said. So what is the Montreal scene like for you guys?
Can I take this one, Mac?
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's funny because it is like the record is kind of it obviously is very, very retro sounding. It's certainly not very contemporary, like doesn't sound like contemporary country music or contemporary rock music. And we recorded it to tape live off the floor. The method itself is kind of old school, but we in Canada, Austin's from out west, Mac grew up out west in Ontario, and me and Nick are both from Montreal, and Coleman grew up kind of near Montreal, near Ottawa. There's a band that we can all claim, because we're not from we're not from the South. We're not from places where we're around country music all the time, but there is a Canadian band that all of us had big phases of being obsessed with, and that is The Band. They're all from Ontario. They're
The
all
best
from really
band
close to
ever.
where all of us have lived. And every single member of our band knows those records front to back and grew up with it. And like, I remember my band phase in high school like it was yesterday. It was like there was nothing I wanted to listen to except for that band for a long time. And I think that when we got in a room and started playing music together, we never were like, hey, like, you got to play old school, you got to do this. We got to make this a throwback band, because it's never what this was. It was just like, we want to make the music we like listening to the most. We want to make, and so in the scene in Montreal, there's not much of a country music scene, but lately after Orville Peck and these things, there's been like a more of like a yeehaw music scene where people are like wear cowboy hats and stuff, and that's fine. Like, it's cool and it's fun, but we were never about like pigeonholing ourselves into anything. I myself have my own music career that is pretty strictly country music, but this band was never like part of any scene really. Mac comes from a garage scene kind of, and Austin comes from this like post-punk scene, and I do mostly country music, and we all have kind of different. We were kind of like a center, like a how should I say, a sum of all parts, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I could hear a lot of the band in the stuff that you've put out, and that is one of my favorite ever bands. It's hard to talk about a band without saying band constantly, but
Yeah.
yeah, Robbie Robertson's from Canada. I don't think Levon Helm and the other guys are, from what I know. Anyway.
Levon is the only one that's not. Levon's from Arkansas, but the rest of them are from Ontario,
Oh,
from
that's really
Canada.
cool. They're just so
Yeah.
awesome. It's The Last Waltz is my favorite documentary music-wise, and the album is just some of the best music I've ever heard. And with the
Yeah.
horn section and the stuff that you've got going on, it really is reminiscent of that kind of era. And that, for me, the 70s and that sort of time was, for me anyway, the best era for it. And the band are a funny one because they weren't strictly country. It was, a lot of influences in that, Southern music. There
Yeah.
was, there was some country with Emmylou Harris and things like that. But so yeah, I can
No
absolutely.
steel guitar.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were missing, mate.
Yeah.
But is there many steel guitar players in Canada?
There's
Probably
there's a,
more
a decent
now.
amount,
Yeah.
especially, yeah, more now. But like, there are some like big name steel players from out west. I think Travis Toy is from out west, and he's like one of the biggest names in Nashville these days. Yeah, there are certainly not like the States, but there's a decent amount.
Cool, man. So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of kind of the Canadian scene and just kind of delving into that a little bit deeper. So, do you guys exclusively play where you are at the moment? Have you kind of crossed the border to kind of play in Nashville, or is that something that you're looking to do next year?
Oh, we'd certainly love to someday. There's certain, I guess, financial hurdles being a Canadian and wishing to perform in the US. I've been fortunate to be able to do it in the past in other projects, and you have to have a work visa. They used to be more affordable, and they went up like 200% in the past year or two. So it's like over $1,000 a head, and if you don't own your own van, accommodations in the US for a touring band, especially a six-piece, are a lot more expensive or not included from promoters. So like in the past, from my own experience and from seeing others, it's often more financially viable to go across the pond. And that's something we've been toying with the idea and planning, speaking with various promoters, some in Scandinavia. We've been approached by a few others across Europe, and obviously the US is the big market, and everyone wants to go there, and they protect their borders and their local artists, and politics aside and all that kind of jazz. Like, sure, if we had the bread and the time, like, we'd love to do it. Teddy and the Rough Riders are a really cool band out of Nashville, and we've sort of become internet friends, and we enjoy kind of chatting with them about their experience playing and touring, and talking about the idea of it would be fun to play together someday, and if we can make it work, we'd love to. But yeah, we've been up and down the 401, man. That's a highway here that connects Detroit to Montreal, and we've played in Toronto, Montreal, a couple festivals, a cool old historic music venue in Ontario called the Key to Bala. It was like a big band jazz venue that opened in like the early 1900s, and we got to open for the Sheepdogs there, a great Canadian band. And here and there make it when we can, and keeping our options open. It's really fun to see different places and audiences react to the music and meet new people.
No, that's great. It's so we speak to a lot of artists across the US, and there's their own challenges in their own states, and I did think there would be an additional challenge for you guys being a six-piece band, or like you said earlier, having 10 people on stage, to try and get everyone, where you need to be in the right places, and, to make sure that it's funded in the right way, because like you say, it's not cheap to do these things. And it's interesting you say, you're looking across the pond. We're always saying about our grand old revival pipe dream for the UK, and we want the best artists over here, and we're not seeing it necessarily. We're starting to see it more and more now, and I'm seeing next year, funny enough, we're seeing a lot of Virginian kind of artists come over, which is great, and we've got tickets to see Colby T. Helms
Nice.
in Birmingham next year, and that's great. I'd love to see more, and me and Dan were talking and saying, well, why don't we set up our own thing? So maybe keep us in mind if you ever want to come to the UK, and we'll try and set something up. We have no idea what we're doing. We keep saying that.
Ben knocked the nail on the head earlier when you said it made me laugh actually when you said it's the yeehaw music scene, because that's what sometimes the UK goes through peaks and troughs of country music. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's people haven't really got interest, and we really want to push that. We really want to be able to do it, and that's why with every podcast we've been talking about bringing the grand old revival. Before I get myself in trouble with something else. So the grand old revival, bringing it over here and having people like yourselves come over and really show, your talent to the UK and to Europe, for this end. So you never know, that pipe dream might change into something.
It will
Sooner rather
if we
than
push
later.
it.
Yeah.
If we push it. But dialing it back slightly, guys. So and talking about the Still Saddle self-titled album, which is fantastic. How did that become produced? Because it's such a well-polished piece of music, and I'm always interested to find out who produced it and how that kind of came about.
Well, thanks so much for all your kind words. It means a lot. I mean, we make for me, making music is like a 50-50 thing. I do it for myself, and then hopefully, for other people to enjoy. So it's really a great feeling to get feedback and hear what people like, or what they wish there was more of, or whatever. We produced it ourselves, but it would be I guess wrong to not bring up how much of an influence the mixing engineer and recording engineer and proprietor, co-founder of the studio, the Treatment Room, Gilles Castello, played, as just kind of being like an invisible hand, listening to six of us ramble, fight, and toss ideas around, and then make the sound come to life in the window we had. Ben introduced Gilles to us through his experience recording with him, and the studio and Gilles' touch kind of made it into what it is. It like to kind of come back to what you brought about the sound and like what Ben said, it wasn't ever like a project of like we want to sound old or do anything other than just play the music we enjoy listening to and making together. It's just how it sounds. We're all just kind of doing our own thing when we bring songs to the band and work them out. And best idea in the room wins type of environment. So we went in with a bunch of songs. We played them live off the floor, no singing and no horns, but everything else was done live there. Um, and that's the sound. There was a beautiful 2-inch Studer 24-track tape machine that looked like it was out of a Soviet era spacecraft. And that machine, obviously, you know, the hiss or whatever, and had its distinct color and warmth. We mixed some of the tracks live, analog, which was really cool and a fun process. So, you know, as far as like production, those things played into it. But it wasn't like a pure analog record. There were some digital plugins used
It's
and
hard to get away
mixes.
from that.
Yeah, and why not? You know, smoke them if you got them. It's 2024, and I think of the 10 songs on the record, 2 of the masters were digital masters. We bounced everything down to quarter-inch stereo. Took the final mixes to Harris Newman at Gray Market Mastering. He's mastered like 2000 over 2000 albums, something crazy like that. And he knows what he's doing. And a couple mixes like Donnie the Satanist, he was like the analog master is muddier.
Hello.
I thought I could hear a child in the background earlier.
Yeah, she just made her podcast debut. I'll tell her when she gets
Lovely.
older.
Brilliant.
But things like that, you know, it was like a fun learning experience for all of us. Where he's like, "Hey, I think this song will sound better if we use the digital master, like, all right, or the digital final mix." It's like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah,
Ben, do you have anything?
there's a real science to it, and yeah, Ben, if there's anything to add, mate.
I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that we recorded the record in, well, it was September or October, Mac. I think it was October.
Yeah, October
Or was it September?
2022.
Yeah,
October. Yeah.
right. And as of like, what was it, June or May, Austin went out west?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our lead singer moved to the other side of the country, like, you know, in May or in June, and then came back. We had like a week to just kind of like dial in the sound and do nothing but play these songs. And then we went to the studio and cut the record. It was fun. Like the recording to tape is romanticized for a lot of reasons, like analog in general, especially when you're doing something that's a little more old school. I happen to, as I know Mac does, like I love the process of working on tape and the way that you kind of have to be really decisive and you do full takes of songs. And if it feels good, then you keep it. And if you run out of room on a reel, you got to decide what you're going over, what you're getting rid of. And, you know, the last song on the record, the song called It's My Time, I remember that take. It was a second take. And I remember like what the room looked like. I remember what everybody's faces looked like for that take. Like I swear when I hear that recording, I can hear the breaths and I can hear it's like, and that's kind of just for me, you know, like looking back at it, like it feels like a really like a postcard from a great week I got to spend with my closest friends. And it also doubles as like a record that we're able to promote and sell and tour and whatever. But the process of working live in a room and just like looking up at each other, and I don't know, it was in fact very romantic.
Except for poor Coleman, the drummer. He was in an ISO booth.
Coleman was in the ISO booth.
And he was like having to look over the mic and his and the hi-hats through a window where there was this sight line where he could see Austin. who sang scratch vocals on a few songs, but other ones didn't, and was sitting down playing acoustic guitar. And I'm the bassist. It was like a funny oversight where I remember telling Gilles after we recorded the record, I was like, I couldn't see Coleman. He's like, if you had told me, we would have moved y'all around, and we would have made it that change. But like, we're all watching Austin sing the songs, and the rest of us were set up in a circle in the live room, and amps in isolated rooms, and then Coleman off in the ISO booth with his little window, and Nick sitting at the baby grand like there with us. So there's some of that like that natural bleed too, which is fun. And like, not to go off on a tangent, but like those Motown, those Stax records, those old country records with George Jones, or Sun records with Elvis, where it was just like people in a room playing together, and it's the sound of people playing together, and there is bleed and there are imperfections. And like Cole Alexander from the Black Lips said once in an interview, like, the imperfections are perfections. And that's like a quote that always stuck with me when we would like go back and listen, and just being, it was more about the field, you know, than all the notes when we were picking takes and being like 5 days, what can we get done? Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
2 songs a day.
That's cool. So the drummer got a bum deal then. You got memories etched in your mind forever, and this guy was sat in a booth on his own. And...
Oh, dude, there was a couple of songs where like there's a little positive silence. I'm like, dang, I can't believe we hit that. And then there's a couple where we like rushed a little bit, and it's just, you know, it's funny.
I remember when we were like mixing the record, I really wanted us to keep at the end of It's My Time. Like, it's a pretty long song, and you listen to that song all the way to the end. If that song was extended another 10 seconds, you would have heard the reaction in the room to that take, you know, like the song ended, and then I think it was like Austin was like, oh, I like that. And then everybody's like, that was the take. That was good. And I don't know, stuff like that. Like, Austin, Coleman still got to experience that through the headphones. You know, he just had to do it while looking at a wall.
Hopefully he benefits another way by being in the band. But no, it's interesting you say that, because I've been watching YouTube videos where they break down the stems of some of the old classic kind of Motown tracks, and like you say, the bleed that comes through, you know, the kind of drum tracks and the things like that. And it's really interesting, but they keep it in, and it gives you that kind of authentic, that raw sound. And I think that's what I'm hearing in your record, and I love it, man. It's yeah, I can't say enough about it. So are you guys signed up? Are you independent at the moment? What's kind of going on for you?
Oh yeah, fully independent. Yeah. We're just doing our thing when we can. We have the time to do it, and we're happy and grateful to do it.
So did you guys work full-time kind of jobs in the background while you're trying to do this sort of thing?
Oh yeah, I'm a sound designer at a video game studio. We all lead, you know, our own lives. I just had a kid.
Congratulations,
working.
mate.
Congratulations. Like Ben was saying, he's working. We got the drummer Coleman. He works in music distribution and fraud. He always tells us crazy stories how he catches people making money scams off streaming and funny stuff like that.
So is he like Dog the Bounty Hunter, going out in his spare time and in the evenings doing this?
He's received threats, man. I wish he was here to. He's got some good stories. Yeah.
But this is where it's interesting. You know, we speak to, and this is part of the Rugged Revival, is promoting a lot of the independent artists, because I just find the scene really interesting, and it's my favorite scene. And you know, you guys are doing what you do, producing these amazing records, going out touring, and kind of playing as much as you can, but still holding down full-time jobs, still looking after your families. And you know, it's an interesting world that I find going on, other than speaking to established artists that some of them probably have forgotten what it's like to, work a 9 to 5 or a day job like some of us obviously still do. But no, that's great. So where are you guys receiving kind of the most support at the moment? Either online or in person. I'm interested geographically. Is it kind of the region that you're in now, or any weird pockets of? Obviously, we're from the UK and we've heard of you. We love your stuff. So that's obviously different geographically. But where would you say is the most support you're currently getting?
It's like online number breakdowns and things we've looked at. The US, just with the sheer size of it, it's number one, Canada, the home front. And then in the top five, it sort of rotates between the UK, Sweden, and like another European country. Strong support out of the Netherlands. We've received a lot of warm responses and people writing us like, come tour here, and Spain, Germany, France. So
that's interesting.
hopefully we keep pushing.
Yeah, Dan, you were talking earlier today about a Dutch guy that you're following, and one of your favorite bands is actually from Sweden as well. So it's not surprising to us that you're getting that kind of support from those countries. But who was that guy you were talking about earlier? I can't even remember now.
I don't really want to mention it, to be honest, CJ. It was. I think it's more of a viral thing. He went off, and there was two of them. I'm not going to say their names, but they went off, and it's in a Dutch language, singing some random song, and he's fully dressed in a Stetson, and he's got the bow tie, and it's just bizarre. But I can't.
Yeehaw country from the Netherlands.
I can't stop watching it.
Can I guess who the band is?
Go on.
Is it Harmonica Sam?
No, the countryside harmonica sound we've talked about before, but yeah.
Not the Dutch guys. Yeah,
no,
Harmonica Sam. That's one of your favourites.
It is, yeah.
Dan, isn't it? They're
obviously you're my favourites.
Very good.
Yeah, it's I'll so one of them is called Fabio, so I'm going to leave it as that, and it's a yeah. But anyway,
we'll send you a link after. Anyway, so moving on. So in terms of, I'm just really interested to see how things are kind of going for you guys. We're talking about geographically. Are you getting much support from kind of radio stations? And, where can we kind of hear from you the most? Obviously, you're on Spotify and the main platforms, but, are you getting a lot of attention from radio stations at all?
Yeah, are we? These ones I gotta defer to Mac. Mac is he keeps the books.
The analytics guy.
Yeah, it's been fun to see that we got the national college charts here, and you get pinged and notified when you chart at a station, and so there's been like little college stations across the US and across Canada that we've managed to get in the charts with no budget. A lot of it's like pay to play too, where you like pay to put the music out into the college radio station online distribution system they have here. It's called Earshot, and then you like reach out and you build and develop a network. There's been fun other podcast too. John Anderson is a Canadian music historian based out of Winnipeg. He's written a lot of incredible books and about rock music, country music, etc. And like I was thrilled he gave us a shout out and a spin on his show. And we've worked with a distributor getting into serious channels and stuff like that. So we do what we can with the resources we have at hand, and we're grateful for the support in the college radio and various other stations, podcasts like yourself.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it, man. It's awesome.
It's great to have you on. It's great to join. For you to join us. I mean, we've TJ's mentioned it earlier. We bring people on because we want to speak to the people that we enjoy their music. We love their music. We loved seeing how they're getting on, seeing where you're going. Being able to promote you as well. Coming through here, being able to push you out across the UK and wherever the podcast gets listened to. I just think, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to come and join us. It's not over yet, but but I've got a couple more questions if that's all right. If you don't mind.
Absolutely.
That's great. So I know you talked us through, around your creative process, and you're telling us some of the stories about when you were recording and everything else, but I just wanted to say, I just wanted to know what parts do you all play in the songwriting process. What parts do you all play in bringing that all together? Does someone just have an idea? Does someone just spring up? Is it, tell us if you can how that comes to light.
Yeah. Well, as a steel player, I'm like, I do the steel player thing. I don't really do. I do steel playing, and I sing harmonies when I can. But sometimes it's hard to, when you're playing steel, you're using both feet, both knees, and both hands. But that is sorry. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Beyond that, I think the only times I've ever, like in memory, I contribute to all the times that things get lessened in songs. Like I can distinctly remember parts in songs where I was like, oh yeah, it was me who was like, let's stop, let's like break it down here, let's punch here. But otherwise, it's mainly just Mac and Austin write a tune, or Mac writes a tune, or Austin writes a tune, brings it to a rehearsal, or because Austin lives on the other side of the country, sends it as a message, like a voice message on Messenger, and then we get down and jam the tune, and we just kind of fuck
Sure.
around, and
Yeah.
I like, we all we kind of work it out in real time, and I think one thing we're all really good at is like, we, instead of like shouting down bad ideas, kind of like cheering on really good ones. Like when you hear something that's
Awesome.
good, you're
Yeah.
like, man, that's good. Like do that. And that naturally helps us get to like a finished product. But of course, we have like, you got Mac playing bass, Austin's playing acoustic guitar, Austin's singing. You got piano, electric guitar, pedal steel, drums, and then horns. So there's not much room for people playing all of the time. It has to be kind of decided when certain pieces of certain songs are going to go to certain instruments and certain groups of instruments, and that can be a lot of fun to kind of arrange and curate, a certain vibe on a song. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
That's really good. Yeah.
It's fun. I remember like hearing Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age talk about that dynamic of like being in a group where you're able to say to your bandmates like, trust me, I'm not telling you what to play. I'm asking you to trust me, flesh out this idea or this sound that I have in my head, and will you go there with me and see it through the end, and then we can decide
Yeah.
is it a keeper, or are we going to go in a different direction? And I feel grateful that this is a group where that's pretty effortless. I don't think it ever really feels like uh, we're telling each other what to do. It's a collaborative process, working out parts and arrangements. And plus, we've had the pleasure and privilege to work with an absolute tremendous horn arranger, Mark Leclerc. He's a professional uh, gigging musician here in town. He's a high school music educator.
Wow.
Tremendous guy, tremendous player, and like I was like, I love the Memphis horns, and we got this record, and I think 5 of the songs could use this Memphis horns style of arranging, and he like, all right, I got it. We're like in the studio, and he did the 5 songs in like before lunch with the section, and
Wow.
there's like a couple parts where we like worked it out and changed it just through the talkback mic, and he's in the live room making the adjustments to the charts, and things just came really quick. And that's kind of been like, I think, something too where you've maybe heard songwriters talk about, or musicians over the years, where like often when you have an idea, just to be able to chase it down while it's fresh and you don't overthink things, and something that we try to do, and that was done for the record that we released. And now we've sort of entered this new phase of home recording, and doing it ourselves. I got next to me this
Oh
beautiful
wow.
16-track
Wow.
1-inch tape machine, and
Yeah.
at the drummer's house, Coleman's got the same one, so we can trade tapes, and we do it ourselves now, and it's a whole new process of having the time to kind of pursue it sonically in a similar direction as the record, but crafting it is completely changed because we're not under this uh, deadline of paying per day and
Yeah.
the next band's coming in the next week or whatever.
And how often do you get to meet up just to, not only to get together to just have a play, just share some ideas, have a bit of a laugh, have some fun. Do you get to meet up regularly or?
It ebbs and
Yeah,
flows.
yeah. We're all pretty interconnected. Like, of course, Mac has more adult responsibilities now with the birth of his child, but
Yeah.
like me and the guitar player Charlie, we live together. Coleman, the drummer, and Nick, the piano player, they live together. I used to live with Coleman there, so there's like, and we're real. Have either of you guys ever been to Montreal before?
No.
Whoa, big mistake, big mistake. You guys got to come down sometime.
We would
But,
love to, mate.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
any time.
It's the
Only
Europe
next
of
use.
yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, you guys should come down. I'd be happy. And in return, I come to the UK and we go to the Hand and Flowers in
Absolutely.
Buckinghamshire. But
Deal.
yeah, we're hanging out kind of more often than we're ever making music. Like yesterday I was driving home from work and Nick was finishing work kind of in a similar area where I was working. So I picked him up, brought him home, sat down with Coleman and Nick. We just sat there and had a chat. Like that is the kind of the thing that is the most special about this band. As good as the music is, and as fun as the shows can be, and all the hype around the record and stuff, it's like I would, the thing I care most about is just that these are all my friends, and I like spending time with them. And I don't know, it feels that's what feels the most precious about this band. It's not like the music that I do think is special and unique that we make, and the synergy we have, but it's pales, like it's what that's worth to me pales in comparison to how much I love just like when we get together and Mac makes a chili and a new hot sauce or something, and we're just over hanging out and I don't know watching a game, or I don't know. This is like the beautiful thing about this band to me.
Yeah, it's like a real sort of family band, it's a real thing.
Big time.
It's brilliant.
And
Big
we're
It's so good
lucky
to hear.
we're in a city where it's easy to get around and see each other too, like
Yeah.
Yeah,
growing up in the States, like it's not always so simple. You got some cities that are much more spread out, or you have to have a car to get around. In Montreal, you can like jump on a bike or a metro any time of the year and kind of get wherever you need to be in like a half an hour, unless you're like out in the suburbs. But we all live in the sort of like condensed plateau area, the plateau next to the mountain.
Sounds
Montreal.
exotic.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, covered in snow. Yeah,
yeah. We'll find
But,
out when we go over.
yeah. Please, yeah, hit us up.
We'll have to do a little tour.
We'll have a poutine. I heard that's getting popular in the
Oh,
UK.
I love poutine. Great.
Yeah,
Cheese
Yeah.
and could be better.
yeah, man.
It's getting popular in the UK.
I've
That's
seen
crazy.
it in a few pubs. Yeah, it's there's one by
pop-ups.
my work that does poutine, and I have a few beers and just a big plate of that, and it's
I should
it's
I
kind of
should say, just because I'm the only Quebecer in this call here, it is called poutine. That is kind of how it's like. It is
Oh, there's
poutine is like
always
how
one that
people
has to
from
correct
Ontario
us.
call it.
Yeah. Tomato. Eh?
Yeah, get it right, TJ. Next time.
And
all
to be
right,
fair,
make sure.
if you saw our
If you plan on coming by, you got to get it right.
Yeah.
you'd be disgusted with our poutine. I don't think it's actual cheese curds either. It's just like cheddar cheese dunked in gravy.
Oh yeah,
But it still
that's
tastes
what
good.
that's what the Greek diners do around here. It's awesome. Secretly, it's awesome.
Or you get the mozzarella, the pizza poutine.
Ooh,
Yeah, exactly.
I can do that, man.
I need to come up to
Yeah,
this. Come and try some.
when we used to rehearse, like when Austin lived in Montreal, after every big rehearsal, we would go to this restaurant on Mount Royal Boulevard called Mount Royal Hot Dog, and we would all get club sandwiches. Except Mac, did you ever get the club, or you always just got that one weird Mexican poutine?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would all get these club sandwiches and a side of gravy. And all of us. I've got like several pictures on my phone of just like the whole wash on the table, like 5 club sandwiches. And so poutine and that kind of culture, that casse-croûte Quebecois diner culture is kind of a big part of this band, a big part of the social aspect of this band.
That's brilliant. It sounds awesome, and I can't wait to join you over there. We're going to have some fun. So yeah,
Yeah,
see you
Take you on
next
a
week.
food tour.
See you
It's
there.
a good time.
Yeah.
Got the smoked meat sandwiches here too.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
We'll be changing this over from a country music podcast to a food podcast.
They go together, I think.
Yeah,
You know,
they
absolutely.
sure do.
It's family.
that's it.
So just going back to you guys being the band that you are, and how big you are sometimes, and what have you, is there any challenges that you see when you go around? Do you get any challenges when you have to travel, when you have to go to certain gigs, or is there any challenges that you face being a band of that size?
Yeah, we got to take 2 cars. Yeah.
Double the cost.
Yeah, man. I mean, simple logistics. Yeah. I don't know. The 3-piece is probably the most economical band format. And then, but we like it. It's something we make work. Hell, every show we've played after the first one, Austin flies here from BC, 4,000
Wow.
kilometers, 8,000-kilometer round trip, man. And we make it work, and we're fortunate we're able to do it. And bringing the horns on the road's tough. We've only done that a handful of times. But yeah, there's logistical challenges, but it's an absolute blast to play with that group and that wall of sound. Toby Keith has this amazing quote where he's like, when people come to a Toby Keith show, he's talking about horns and country music. He's like, they start tailgating around 2 or 3. And he's like, by the time I go on stage at 8, 9, they are ready to party. And what takes the party to the place they're expecting is the horns.
Yeah.
Toby, man, he was a legend. But no, it's true. It's something we've been super fortunate to do and to experiment with and to have fun with.
See, I'm just finding out now. So when we hold the grand old Rugged Revival, we know what challenges you'll face, so we'll get it all sorted by the time you come over. So we can just get you up there, get you playing. It's all good. Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Amazing.
So tell us, what's your main goals and aspirations? What's your dream outcomes?
I don't know, shows where people start tailgating at 2, I guess.
yeah, man.
That's it.
Like, that's kind of it, man. Like, I don't know. Short term is like a second record would be wicked, and maybe some kind of representation that made sense. But it's kind of hard to find representation that'll do it better than, like, I don't know. I can't remember who. A Canadian country singer by the name of Zachary Lucky was in town last week, and we were having Lebanese food at like 1 a.m, and he was like, "Man, nobody will work as hard for you as you will for yourself." And so, short-term goal, like, it'd be cool to have a team where the people playing the music weren't also the people putting the tours together and figuring out the accommodations, mainly Mackenzie, to be honest. But that would be a cool goal for us, I'd say, is to make it so that we can go from, being guys that bike over to each other's houses to eat dinner and jam for a couple of hours before it's too late. You don't want to keep the neighbors up to, like a proper Willie Nelson style family band where we have like 3 tour buses and we're all raising our children on the road, and everybody's happy. And world peace, I guess. Ending world hunger. Good world peace would be cool.
Just starting off small, then. Yeah, that's
yeah.
It's
shop in every town.
Oh mate,
No,
it's
man,
sorry, Matt. Carry on, mate.
I was just say we're not in a rush to do anything, man. We're just super grateful to be able to do it when we have the opportunity to, and what comes of it will be as it may. And for us, it's just more about enjoying the process. That's what brought us together in the first place, and we're having a blast right now recording material ourselves. I've had to figure out so many different mixing boards, man. I'm lucky I don't have any hair because I'd be pulling it out, you know? But like those kind of challenges at home and doing it together and calling up Gilles from the treatment room, be like, can you please come over? Like we're stuck. So he's still kind of like working with us and helping us out and sort of like a mentor as we traverse the DIY for record number 2 approach and just seeing where that goes, taking our time, enjoying the process, experimenting with new instrumentation. We got people who can play a whole Nick Power could play a screen door. Hey Ben, you'd always say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he plays like the mandolin, he's a good harp player. Ben plays banjo, guitar, steel, and just playing with different sonic textures and seeing where that leads. And just following our ear, and we're starting to collaborate more too. It was a different era when we started the band where like Austin and I lived pretty close to each other and with each other for a period of time, so writing naturally just happened like that, or he would bring a tune. And then now he's living out west, so it's like there's maybe more of just like Austin songs, and now there's been starting to be like some ideas and collaborations where the 5 of us in town get together and work stuff out. Someone has a riff, someone has a melody, someone works on some lyrics or whatever, and seeing where that goes, man. We got a lot of material, and hopefully we'll see the light of day sooner than later.
Oh, cool, man.
And it will, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the benefit of living in this digital age. It's you don't necessarily have to be in person. You can collaborate in so many different ways. And you mentioned, meeting up with other country artists locally, having kind of dinner with these people. Is there anyone outside of the band that you're looking to collaborate with in the future, or have plans now to kind of branch out? Was that just something that's kind of down the road, shall we say?
Oh shit. I mean,
that's a good question.
It's like dream.
Yeah. No, you go on, Mac.
No, I got nothing. Go ahead.
I mean, like, yeah, it'd be cool. Like, there's like more and more a DIY music scene all over the world, really. But like, let's say in North America, especially in Canada, and there's recently an article in the Globe and Mail that I contributed to about this. Like, this guy started writing this article about the DIY hardcore scene in Montreal and in Canada. And then while he was writing it, started to realize that, wait, there's a DIY scene for every genre, because, there's like kind of a big disparity between like people with major representation and people without. And because of that, the collaborations you make and the connections you make, thanks to the digital age on Instagram, and when you're on the road and you meet people, become the gateways to further spreading your wings and finding different places to tour. So people that I'd like to collaborate with, like in terms of Steel Saddle, it's like, well, whoever will help us tour other parts of North America or Europe, for example, that we can then return the favor and have them come see the beautiful 401 here in Canada. So I don't know. I think that would be the smart answer. If this was a quiz, I'm trying to get the right answer.
That's the political one. No, that's it's interesting to kind of find out, what you're doing on that front. And I suppose being out on the road as well, and you mentioned kind of meeting some of your heroes, Ben. I forget the name. Is it Blue Rodeo? You mentioned right at the beginning. And it's have you met any other of your idols, doing what you're doing and out on the road, that you kind of been starstruck by, or just someone that you admire?
Not with Steel Saddle. I mean, not with Steel Saddle. I have my own like my own solo career that I've met some cool folks doing what I do in. But I think actually with Steel Saddle we did open for this Canadian band called the Sheepdogs, and like Mac was saying, at the Kita Bala, this old venue where like Glenn Miller and Duke Ellington played at years ago, and that was pretty fun, man, hanging out with these dudes, because like when I was in high school, the Sheepdogs were just like the dudes doing the 70s rock thing in Canada. And so for them to like take an interest in our band and to help us out the way they did and to kind of put us on like that, that was wicked, man. That was they're good guys and they're cool.
Yeah, they were down to pay it forward. That was awesome.
Yeah, which is wicked.
Super appreciative. They won a contest, but like Ben was saying, when we were in high school, where they got on the cover of the Rolling Stone, and then went on to do their own their own success through like major representation, and now they're like back to independently running their own ship, and it's inspiring to see, and we're grateful to have had their support, and Teddy and the Rough Riders, friends down in Nashville. We've all got friends sort of all over the place from our various backgrounds. The Nude Party is a cool band I like, from Asheville in the States. There's like a wish list of people we'd love to tour with or to support, but we're taking it one day at a time. People I've met who I really like and appreciate: Jeff Clark is a great Canadian singer-songwriter. He's from Edmonton. He played in a band here called Demon's Claws, great garage band in the early 2000s, same like era as King Kong and Barbecue Show, like a soul doo-wop garage revival. And in that Montreal scene, and Jeff Clark writes some amazing songs. I've got to meet him down in Austin and just talk about being from Canada and living in Montreal, and he plays in the Black Lips now, but releases his own music. Like other people, I sold Julian Casablancas a guitar once.
Cool, from the Strokes.
Yeah,
awesome, man.
That's funny.
Yeah, but you never know where music will take you, and you just enjoy the ride and we don't focus too much on the outcome. It's just more about enjoying the ride, because most people are doing that too, and I think that sort of you get drawn towards where you're supposed to be drawn to, probably. I don't know, I'm not trying to be all philosophical or whatever.
No, it's just really interesting to hear your perspective on things, and I love the whole social media aspect of things now, and people can speak positively about it, and obviously there's the negative sides of it, but I don't think music and artists in particular have ever been so accessible in our lives. And we joked about it with Adam Hood not long ago when he was on the show, to say, the likes of us have access to these artists' inbox, to invite them on the show to have these kind of long form conversations, and like bands like yourself, you can speak to other bands easier to kind of form connections and to collaborate in some way. So I just love the whole kind of ethos of what's going on at the minute, and I think it's a bit of a revival in itself. And we haven't been blocked by anyone so far, so I suppose that's a positive.
You're doing a good job. The Grand Ole Revival is well on its way, man. There's going to be a lot of people there. Who knows? We might get 20 people up on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the choir.
So anything can happen, and I haven't pissed anyone off too much yet, so it's all good, man. But yeah, over to Dan, man. It's been really enjoyable having you guys on. You're so interesting. You're so unique in what you're doing, and I'm amazed by all the stuff that you're doing. In fact, with the kind of home studio recordings. I know, I did some production years ago, and how scientific it can be just to record digitally, let alone through analog kind of material. It's
I'm gonna have to. Sorry, I've got to interrupt you there because I need to tell him a bit of a story about that, because I mentioned it in one of the first podcasts. So Terry, or TJ as we know him here, used to be nicknamed Costa del Tel, who was the DJ. So it was just DJ and TJ the DJ. So there we go. We'll leave it as that.
Yeah, the worst nickname ever. So I back in the day when I was younger, I was producing kind of house music, trance music, and those sort of things. I don't know if they ever crossed the kind of pond to Canada, that sort of music.
Sure did.
But, that was kind of late 90s, early aughts. That was my whole shindig. Still is, to be fair. I'm getting a bit too old for that kind of music and venture down the country. So, see, but it's
moved from the basement to the porch, eh?
Exactly. I'm more comfortable there, mate, with a whiskey. That's my scene these days. But so I know how kind of difficult it can be just to kind of wrap your head around basic kind of production, digital, analog and things like that. But I won't bore you to tears with my kind of tales of woe around that, guys. But like I said, it's been incredible to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming to speak to us. Is there anything you guys want to kind of plug, anything you want to kind of talk about, and particularly where's the best place to find you?
We've got vinyl for sale.
Yeah.
On our Bandcamp. All your major streaming
You've got
platforms.
cool t-shirts. I know that. I like the Ringer t-shirts that I saw recently.
Oh, yeah.
That's a bit of me. If I was a bit slimmer, I would love to order one. But
Write us, we'll sort something out.
We got all sizes.
Yeah, it reminds me of like McConaughey's character in Dazed and Confused. That's the McConaughey ringer. Or what's his name in that movie? I can't remember right now. All right. Wooderson or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
We're
Not
around
all
coming to
Instagram
a
and all
town.
that.
Yeah, near
Yeah.
you someday. Check out Blue Rodeo's Casino. That's a good place to start. That's a CD both Ben and I had in the car growing up that our dads were spinning. And that's a cool like Canadian take on Americana or roots or whatever you want to call it. And sound kind of coming back around. The Byrds 12-string jangle meets pedal steel guitar.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
so that's a cool one, a little Canadian plug there. Jim Cuddy's still doing his thing, the singer.
Yeah, but Kim Deschamps plays in my band now. That's the thing.
Yeah, the steel player is
Kim
meant to
Deschamps plays in my band. Yeah, doesn't play in Blue Rodeo anymore. He plays in my band. So
amazing. I love how we've been down the rabbit hole there. It's we've learned a lot about Canadian country and Canadian music in general through this, and I think Dan's been writing a load of names down as he's been talking. So
I have, yeah.
We're gonna take away.
Scribbling away. Yeah.
We'll go down the rabbit hole. But
honestly, Ben, back still saddle. You've been amazing. You've been incredible. It's been fascinating to listen to some of your stories on here. Thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget, push us out as much as you can. The Rugged Revival, give us a follow. It's great to see you. Take care of yourselves, and I think it's just time to close off, Terry, to be honest. So we'll do a little toast. If you've got a drink handy, please grab it. So we raise a toast to the grit, the grind, and the revival. Cheers. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.